Episode 15 of Griddyiron Gang. What we got for you today is a Week 6 preview, but before we get to that, we got to touch on last night's Monday Night Football game. Las Vegas traveled to Kansas City, took a L in a close game, 29-30. Derek Carr, 19-30, 241 yards, 2 touchdowns. Both of those touchdowns going to a former Packer, Devontae Adams, who had his own little Randy Moss game, 3 catches for 124, and like we said, those 2 touchdowns. Jacobs did his damage as well, 21, 154 and a touchdown, but came up short to the Magic Man Mahomes, 29-43, 292, 4 touchdowns, all of his going to Kelsey, who only had 25 yards on the night, but accounted for all the scores that Kansas City put on the board. This game really came down to the end, and I know we talked about yesterday, Cowboys are 4-1 right now, but we feel ultimately they're going to do some Cowboys things. Mike McCarthy is the head coach. It's going to come down to a Dak running the ball with 14 seconds left in the playoff game, a Dez Bryant caught it game, or a Tony Romo fumbling a field goal against Seattle Seahawks. Raiders are going to do Raider things. Last night they did some of those things. 2-point conversion when they had a chance to just tie the game with the extra point. Devontae Adams had to drop pass, which would have been big and put the team in field goal position. We also had the wide receiver smash. Both guys running into each other on the last play of the game, man.
Stupid.
Man, we put up a meme last time we were here, and I mean, it just came to fruition this time, man. Raiders do Raiders things. What'd you think about this game last night?
I mean, you can't go up 17-0 and shit it away like that. I mean, when teams go up by 17, you got to keep your foot on the gas and put them into the ground. But granted, you're going up against Mahomes and that offense, which is lethal over there. I mean, Kelsey's a monster. Mahomes is damn near unstoppable half the time. But Kansas City does have some issues on that defense. They're pretty leaky over there, especially against that run last night. They really didn't have an answer for Jacobs. I don't understand the call going for 2 at the end. You're going against Mahomes and the Chiefs. They're capable of driving down the field in 30 seconds and scoring. So I don't know what Josh McDaniels was thinking. That was a terrible call. I mean, what is going up by 1 point even do for you? That
doesn't make any sense.
I'll take my chances and go to overtime. I mean, and that last touchdown to Devontae Adams was just a pure dime. That was one of the most beautiful balls I've seen thrown by Derek Carr. I mean, climbing the pocket, getting to the line of scrimmage, and just dropping a dime.
That was beautiful. Great catch too.
Yeah. Devontae showed you last night why they traded what they did for him. I mean, he's a game changer. But you can't have your 2 best wideouts running into each other at the end of the game there either. But at the same time, what was it, 4th and 1? Why are you going deep?
I mean, there was nobody over the top. If they run that concept cleanly, it probably is 6.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, 4th and 1, shoot, I damn near got, besides Justin Tucker, the best kicker in the NFL.
You got a good one.
So just get past the sticks, and you're almost in field goal range right there. So he's got a big leg. He's very accurate. It was just a meltdown by the Raiders. I mean, they usually have an answer for the Chiefs every time they play him. It seems like Derek Carr plays well all the time when they play him, and you're beating him 17-0 in Arrowhead. So just a complete meltdown. And I think the bye for them comes at the perfect time to regroup, because they're the best 1-4 team in the league by far, and they still, I mean, 1-4, they're not out of it yet. They still have a chance if they put it together. And it hurt that Waller goes down 6th play of the game with a hamstring. He's got some durability issues lately. But if you have him in there, I think they might have pulled that off because, I mean, he's a big threat outside of Adams and Renfro. So, if he's there in that whole game, who knows what happens. But I mean, credit to the Chiefs. They took it to them in that second half, especially. I think it was 20-10 at halftime.
Pretty much after that Chris Jones call, that was a pretty bad call.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Chiefs controlled the game from that point on.
Yeah, these calls are getting out of hand.
We've seen a couple bad ones this week, man.
I don't know what to say about it besides getting out of hand. I mean, it's tough to watch when you get refs calling those type of, throwing those flags like that. But I mean, what is Chris Jones supposed to do? I mean, they said it was because his whole body weight went on top of him, but I mean, how is he supposed to land? I mean, it's just the natural way of things, flowing through a tackle. I mean, I don't know. It was a great game though. That was one of the more fun ones to watch so far this year.
Yeah, you said it. I mean, Raiders just gave this one away. Amongst all the things we talked about, they also had a holding call and a field goal, which I don't think I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
And that gave Chiefs new possession, new downs, and they went down and scored a touchdown. So that was one of the differences in the game as well. Very entertaining game. Better than the Thursday night game we've seen, and I'm going to assume it's going to be better than the Thursday night game we see coming up. So
Yep.
I'll take an AFC Chiefs game any day.
Yep.
Getting into week 6, you mentioned it. Vegas is one of those teams on the bye. We have 4 of them. Detroit, Houston, and the Titans. Detroit coming off a shutout loss. Houston coming off their win. We just mentioned Vegas, obviously. And the Titans on 3 in a row. Who do you think is going to benefit the most from this bye right here?
I want to say it's going to probably be the Raiders or the Lions. I mean, I think the bye comes at a perfect time for both those teams, especially the Lions. You had the number 1 scoring offense in the league up until you got shut out by the Patriots. So they gotta get healthy, and they just gotta start putting it together because at some point, all the talk that you're doing with Dan Campbell and everything, you got to start stacking wins. Like, that talk doesn't mean anything if you can't win.
It's time to show it now. Doesn't matter if the guys like you if you're not winning.
Exactly. So I mean, yeah, I would say those two teams benefit the most, but because I don't know exactly what a bye is going to do for the Texans. The games they do pull off this year, it's going to be, in my eyes, probably some sort of downfall on the other side for whoever they're playing, not showing up or just shit in the bed, whatever it may be. The Texans aren't gonna go into every game they're not gonna probably go into any game as a favorite.
I can't imagine they would.
But I think this last week just kind of goes to show, like, whatever it is. I mean, they just have Jacksonville's number at this point right now. 9 straight wins against them. I mean, Jacksonville doesn't have an answer for them, it seems like. So, yeah, I think Houston's games that they will win probably will come more likely in the division than anything else, I would say. So
that's fair to say.
Not saying I don't know how they'll play against the Titans. They do play them well for the most part. I feel fairly confident they can pull off at least one win against Indianapolis. But yeah, I mean,
they can sneak Tennessee too.
They could, because I'm not too high on Tennessee, but that division's, in my eyes, probably the weakest one in the NFL. So I mean, yeah, the Titans having a bye this week as well. I don't know if it's perfect timing or not. You just won 3 in a row. You're kind of on a little bit of a roll. So how you come out of this bye week is going to say a lot about your team.
Yeah, I personally don't like having bye weeks. Week 6,
yeah,
I feel like it's a little early, especially coming off 3 wins.
Yep.
I feel like I want to keep it rolling, even though my wins have been ugly. So, I mean, I could talk myself into that fact that they have been ugly and maybe we can get something figured out. Traylon Burks integrated more into the lineup or whatnot. But Derrick Henry's finding his legs, so that's definitely a good sign for Tennessee.
Yep.
But I agree with you. Detroit and Vegas, I think, will benefit the most from these buys. Detroit has that offense and their schedule loosens up a little bit towards this back end. So I think they'll be able to squeak out more wins than expected after this slow start. Vegas, same kind of sentiment there, 1-4, but this team is very talented. I think, from what I saw, they outplayed the Chiefs until the Chiefs came back. But I feel
Yeah.
like even down the stretch when the Chiefs were making that comeback, Raiders had plenty of chances to go win that game, and they just didn't end up executing. But this team is talented. Josh McDaniels, I feel like, is going to figure it out. Derek Carr, Devonta Adams seem to have found a little bit of rapport with each other again over the past few weeks. So I think the Raiders are in good hands with this bye right now, and they'll figure it out going forward.
Yep.
Now, getting into week 6, we have a great Thursday night matchup. But I do promise it does get better. So hold on to your seats. Washington Commanders at 1-4 on the road to face the Chicago Bears at 2-3. Now, Ron Rivera kind of walked back his comments about Carson Wentz and apologized, but it's out there. We're never going to forget it, and you're not wrong for saying what you said.
No.
We know Carson Wentz has the ability to throw for 350 yards like he did, but crucial interception loses you the game. Nobody else in that division is doing that, not even Daniel Jones. Right. And that's the difference between 4-1 and 1-4. Mm-hmm. So for this game, Chicago doesn't really make those mistakes. They don't allow Justin Fields to throw the ball, to throw the interception on the goal line. With a good run defense, good pass defense, and a good run game, I'm going to have to go with Chicago at home in a short week.
Yeah, this one is a tough one for me. I mean, they're two lowly teams. Obviously, Chicago's got the better record. But I feel,
Commanders are due one.
That's where I'm struggling with, because
there's a lot of talent over there.
I'm not going to be surprised one way or the other whoever wins this game. It's a battle of bad teams.
Right.
So I think if the Bears don't make too many mistakes, Fields can use his legs like he did last week, they might pull it off. But also, I kind of right now like. I mean, you still got McLaurin. Wentz is gonna have one of those games where he shows what he's capable of and he pulls off a good win. So with that being said, I'm gonna go with Washington this week, as it pains me to say, because I don't like Wentz and I don't like this team. But you look at not that they've had any, have they had a division game yet?
Not that I can remember.
I can't remember either, but they still are in, arguably maybe the best division. They're clearly the worst team in that division, but their defense has been doing enough this year to put them in position to win games. If they can play a clean game as well, I like their chances. Soldier Field's not the easiest place to play, but they're bad teams, so that doesn't mean anything really. You just got to show up and play. So I think Wentz comes out. That comment probably lit a fire under his ass, and he'll at least have one good game coming up here. So I'll pick this one.
Next game, we have the 49ers of San Francisco on the road at Atlanta. San Francisco coming off a win, Atlanta coming off a loss. Controversial loss, but that's in the past now. For this game, I'm going to have to go with San Francisco on the road. I think the defense is for real. The running game is for real. Garoppolo and Mariota, I don't think there's a big difference there, but Garoppolo is going to make more plays and probably take care of the ball a little better than Marcus will. And I just trust Shanahan more than what they got going on in Atlanta. Although I do think, there is times where Atlanta can be exciting. I don't know if they're going to be able to be exciting against this San Francisco defense, but this offense does intrigue me for Atlanta. I don't know if they're going to have Kyle Pitts back for this game, but Cordell Patterson is still out. And for that reason, I'm going to have to go with the 49ers on the road.
Yeah, I can't see the Falcons holding up too well like they did this past week without those two guys in the lineup. There's only so much they can do on offense without them. And I trust Jimmy G and their offense a lot more than I do Atlanta's offense, especially with those two guys out. And I definitely trust the 49ers defense over the Falcons. So, it's a good game environment being indoors in Atlanta. I got the 49ers winning this one fairly easy.
Yeah, I don't want to say double digits because Atlanta does always have that backdoor score. But I feel like this would be a double-digit game throughout.
Yeah, I got it. I would assume by at least 10.
Yeah, around there for sure. Next game, we have the Patriots at 2-3 on the road at Cleveland at 2-3.
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland took a L last week. Probably should have won that game. Controversial calls on both sides. New England, upset of the week, probably. I won't say that, but definitely surprise of the week with a shutout, 29-0, right in contention with that Houston win over
Yep.
Jacksonville. I would say one of those games is definitely the biggest surprise for me. I think they're going to keep it rolling, but not to that effect. They're going to take away Chubb, and Brissett isn't going to be as effective as he has been, and I got New England in this game.
Yeah, man. I think I got to disagree here. I think Cleveland. I've been on a Cleveland run lately, but there's something. I mean, there's something about the team I like. I think they got a lot of fight in them. I think they Stefanski's able to make adjustments and correct a lot of things. Especially if Mac Jones is out, I can't trust Bailey Zappi putting together a decent game for a second week in a row. So, and Cleveland's defense isn't any sort of slouch by any means either. So, yeah, I like Cleveland. I think they're just a hard-nosed football team. Being at home helps. I definitely like New England more in Foxborough most times. So I got to go Cleveland here. I don't see it being the prettiest game, but it'll be a dogfight.
It will be a dogfight. Myles Garrett came back last game, so this will be a second game back from injury. Still no Jadeveon Clowney, but Bailey Zappi, like you said, I don't expect him to go 17-21 again, especially with a defense like this. Detroit is a pretty mediocre defense to bad defense overall. However, Bill Belichick is going to put his guys in the right position. We know what he does defensively. He takes away your best option, and I think that's Chubb right now. And Brissett is kind of sporadic at times.
Yep.
He's going to be forcing the ball to Njoku and Amari Cooper because those are his best two options, and rightfully so. He should be trying to get those guys the ball. But Bill, he doesn't go for that. He just shut down Detroit. He's going to do something similar with Jacoby. I'm going to have to go New England with this one, man. Next game, we have the Jets at 3-2 on the road at Go Pack Go. 3-2.
Yeah.
Which green you taking in this one?
I think, being at Lambeau, it's going to be a bounce back game for Green Bay. I'm always going to root against them, but you got to be realistic. And I think, Green Bay is still a fairly good team. Their defense hasn't been playing up to par lately. I think that it's a good time. I think it's a good time to turn things around on defense for them and have a standout game, especially going up against Zach Wilson, who I can't fully trust yet. But the Jets are a sneaky good team. They'll probably be in the game. It won't be a blowout by any means, I don't think. But yeah, I just trust Aaron Rodgers and the Packers more than I do the Jets right now.
Won't be a blowout at all. I don't think the Packers have the ability to blow teams out. And I would have said the same about the Jets, but they just blew out the Dolphins by 23. I'm going to have to disagree with this one. No, I'm just playing. I'm going to go Green Bay too, but I think this is going to be a close game. I almost said the Jets. I think this game is going to say a lot about both of these teams, and whoever comes out on top should be taken for real. And if the Packers lose, I think they're in trouble. If the Jets lose, I think that's what's expected. So,
yeah.
But if the Jets end up winning this game and end up 4-2, we're going to be talking about them a little bit differently, especially given the opponent they just beat in Aaron the Great Rodgers. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I think this is a game, though, for the Jets, even though I'm picking the Packers. I think this is a great opportunity for the Jets because, realistically, they have nothing to lose. They can go out every game and play their asses off and play freely, and there's nothing to lose there. They're not expected to be a playoff team, So I think if you, not saying Green Bay is going to play uptight or anything, but their backs are against the wall right now because they're 3-2. They just got upset by the Giants in not so good fashion, and yeah, the only thing is, I'd have more confidence in the Jets if they're playing at home because playing at Lambeau, it's usually Green Bay's always coming up. Not losing too often in Lambeau. They love playing at home. They're comfortable there, and Rodgers is Rodgers. So, but at the same time, Rodgers isn't the Rodgers of old because he doesn't have the weapons on the outside that he usually does. Devontae Adams, at least. I think Matt LaFleur is going to look in the mirror after last game and realize, like, hey, my running back's got to be featured, and
for sure.
that's the only way we can win games right now. You can't pass. You can't have double the amount of passes that you do runs, and even when you do pass, you got to be looking early and often for your running backs. So I think they correct that, and should be not an easy win, but they'll pull it off.
I agree. Next game, we're headed to the AFC South, where Jacksonville is 2-3 on the road at Indianapolis, 2-2 and 1 tie.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'm probably gonna have to go Jacksonville in the bounce back game. I still don't trust Indianapolis. I don't care how many games they win. I don't care if they beat the Chiefs. I just don't see myself picking this team unless they play Houston.
Well, and they've already played before. Jacksonville beat them 24-0.
Good point.
So I'm going Jacksonville.
Good point. Yeah,
they've had Indy's number for a couple years now, and even looking back last year, Indy goes they're on the verge of playoffs, and they completely shit the bed down in Jacksonville, and get outclassed. So, it's. I think Jacksonville, they're not a bad team. Dougie P's doing good things down there. It's a good bounce back game, especially in the division. They're going to come and play very hard, and they're going to take it to them this week. And I'm not. Matt Ryan's very limited these days, and they don't got many weapons besides Jonathan Taylor. Michael Pittman was supposed to have even more of a breakout this year. Not seeing it. I think he was hurt for a little bit, but. And their new receiver rookie Alec Pierce, I don't see a whole lot out of him. He had a decent game last game, I think, with 8 catches or something. But yeah, he's still missing Shaq Leonard. It's just they're in turmoil right now.
Yeah, they've been going with this quarterback strategy over the past few years, Phillip Rivers, and now your boy over there, Matt Ryan, but Carson Wentz, my boy before that. But shit, at some point in time, they're gonna have to get a stable quarterback back there, and they're gonna have to build around this quarterback. You brought on 3 different guys with 3 different skill sets, and you're just trying to fit them in around pieces that don't really fit with these quarterbacks. These guys aren't that talented on the outside. Jonathan Taylor just broke out last year.
Yep.
So before that, you really didn't have any kind of run game that was noteworthy. This offensive line isn't what it used to be. So Matt Ryan maybe is in a situation that he wasn't expecting as far as that goes. But yeah, man, this Colts situation right now is very ugly from a team that we thought would be right at the top of this division.
Yeah, it's not looking good. I was pretty high on them coming into the year, and I had them winning the division, but it's not looking too good, and I don't have any confidence in them. So and I overall just like the way Jacksonville is playing more, even though they had a pretty bad game last week. They're not a team who's gonna have many of those weeks. I think they usually, even though they lost, it was 13-6.
Mm-hmm.
So they're gonna be in all these games that they're playing.
They'll be in all the games, and this team will keep teams in all the games when they're on the road at Miami this week. And that's the Vikings at 4-1, taking on the Dolphins at 3-2. I'm going to let you go ahead and have the floor.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm picking the Vikings because I have a feeling we're going to be facing a third-string quarterback, and I can't pick a third-string quarterback even against our defense. I think this is a week that our defense is going to look a lot better than it has the previous weeks. But is it going to be for real? I don't think so. So we're going to have... And I just feel like Miami kind of fooled us in the first few weeks with how well they were on a roll. I mean,
They didn't fool me.
even with Tua back, I mean, they're going to be better, but I think, how long is he going to be out? Teddy's not going to bring you anywhere. So if you get Tua back soon, you still have a chance. But until then, I can't have confidence in you because that defense, it's probably even worse than our defense.
Suspect. I don't know if it's worse than your defense, but it definitely is in the conversation to be there. Without Tua, this team is bottoms up, man. They're no good. Teddy, I thought was going to be better than this, but he's been hurt in both the times he's been in the game, so it doesn't seem like he's going to be very reliable. Probably not going to be able to go this game. So Skylar Thompson, third string quarterback. I mean, my only argument for Miami would be that you guys play your corners deep, and we can just get it to Tyreek and Waddle on slants across the middle, and they run for 80 yards after catch.
And I do worry about that, but if
Mostert's fast, other than that, I mean Gesicki is good, and that's a bad quarterback's best friend. But I don't see Miami staying in this game for too long.
No, I think ultimately for the Vikings though, the pass rush has to be on point this week. If you have it on point, there's no way in hell that they beat us. So I mean, but it's the NFL. Weird shit happens. This could go the other way. But I got the Vikings. I'm fair. I mean, this should be a game that, especially with the bye week coming up, you wanna go into it with a win. So I'm gonna take the Vikings. I think these close wins are giving them confidence that they can go into any game and pull it off. So I feel like they'll go down to Miami. It'll probably be hot and humid, but. I don't know how they're gonna handle that with being an indoor team from the Midwest, but we'll see. I just it comes down to that third string quarterback for me.
That's really all it comes down to. Everything else you said definitely factors into it, but I just can't trust a third string quarterback, even though you guys aren't great versus backup quarterbacks for some reason. You definitely play down to your competition.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I don't know much about this guy. I don't know how capable he is of taking off and running anything. I mean, I don't know his mobility. I'm going into this blind. I mean, I didn't even really watch any highlights of last game to see how he did, but his numbers weren't the greatest.
It should give you confidence that you'll be 5-1 going into the bye.
Yeah,
for sure.
I would think so.
Cincinnati at 2-3 on the road at New Orleans 2-3. Cincinnati coming off a loss on Sunday night. New Orleans coming off a win that they desperately needed against Seattle. I am gonna have to go with New Orleans here, and I think it's gonna be trouble time in Cincinnati.
Nah, man. They
no Andy Dalton revenge game?
No, they played I mean, the Ravens are a good team and they played you guys pretty well. Granted that's a division games. You guys know each other very well, but the New Orleans is not healthy right now.
How is Lattimore? Is he out?
I haven't heard. I can't tell you, but
Olave is out. Michael Thomas. You know what? I'm gonna go with Cincinnati.
Come on, man! You just picked New Orleans.
I'm gonna go Cincinnati. New Orleans is not healthy at all. Now I think about it.
So yeah, I can't go against. I mean, Cincy, they're starting to get better each week. They're starting to gel more. That offensive line looks better than it did to start the season. They still got things to clean up, but I like the defense better than I do the Saints. And with your offense hurting as much as it is, with all those guys out, I can't trust you.
Shit, I really like the Saints defense. I just don't know if Lattimore's healthy. But the offense has taken, I mean, their best 4 players are out.
I mean, dude, the Saints gave up how many points to Seattle?
At the same time, Geno's playing like a top 5 quarterback, though, and Joe Burrow isn't.
I mean,
so, I don't know what you want me to say, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's credit to Geno, but it's still Joe Burrow, man. It's still Joey B. The only thing going for New Orleans is they're at home. They play very well in the Superdome. If it was in Cincinnati, I would be much more confident in Cincinnati. but I still have them winning. I just feel the injuries that are plaguing the Saints right now is just too much to overcome. I feel, especially against a team like Cincinnati,
a desperate team like Cincinnati.
Yeah,
I agree. They can't be 2-4. They'll get back to 500 this week. Baltimore also was desperate. Won against Cincinnati. They are 3-2 at the Giants, who are 4-1. A little Wink Martindale revenge game. I don't think that's going to happen. Baltimore's going to go on the road, take this dub 4-2, regain some wins that we lost earlier in the season, and finish the season around where I predicted, 12-5.
I don't know, man. I think Wink might have your number.
Hey, if anybody knows how to do it, it's him.
That's the only reason if I were to pick the Giants, would be that reason. But I still think you can't. I don't see the Giants defense stopping Lamar. It's gonna be. I'm not gonna say a blowout because you look at the Giants are 4-1. Dayball's got them playing good ball, but overall better team, definitely Baltimore. So I think the love story with the Giants comes to a screeching halt this week. And I'm not gonna say it's gonna be a bloodbath, but it's not gonna be close. I don't think this is at least a fucking 2-touchdown game by Lamar and the Ravens. So I
would like to think that. Before the season, I would have thought that. I think we have to contain Saquon Barkley, which is gonna be a tall task. Our defense, we're an okay run defense. I don't think there's any way in hell that we allow Daniel Jones to beat us in the past.
No, I'm expecting a multi-sack game by JPP.
Oh, his revenge game too. I would love to see some of that.
So I think he's gonna. He looked very good in spurts last game, and I think he's gonna. Once he starts grasping this defense more and more, I mean he's gonna go on a tear eventually because he's still got the juice. So I mean. The defense in Baltimore is only going to get better, especially later in the season once they get healthy. I mean, they're a team to not you can't take the Ravens lightly. I would just like this is a game though. I'd like to see Lamar go out there and drop some dimes. Like you got to put a few games together with that accuracy. I feel like to give you the confidence you want in that team.
I agree. I don't know the status of Ronnie Stanley. I don't know the status of Bateman, but I think he's capable to do it with the guys that he has, and he was showing that last game. The opportunities are there. The offense, there's nothing wrong with it. The run game is okay. You just got to make those plays when they show themselves.
Yeah.
I think he'll do that this game. Next, we have Tampa Bay, 3-2, at Pittsburgh, 1-4. You're making that face. You think Tampa was going to do this one dirty, huh? This is a bad situation for Kenny Pickett to be in his first 2 games to play these defenses.
Yeah, man. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I'm not going to say they're going to get shut out, but I wouldn't be surprised if they got shut out. I don't see it happening with Tomlin as the coach. But at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of things going wrong in Pittsburgh right now. And I mean, you just played Buffalo. Now you got to go play another contender in Tampa Bay. And even though they're not fully healthy yet, it's still Tom Brady. It's still a vaunted defense. There's no shot in hell that Pittsburgh wins.
I don't know what the spread is on this one, but I'm probably going to say Tampa's going to win this game by 13, 14 points.
I'd even go. Minimum.
I just don't like their offensive
weapons. I would even. My first guess would probably be 17.
I don't know if they have that capability against the Tomlin defense. With their weapons aren't that healthy either, right?
Yeah,
now, so.
But also, the saving grace is T.J. Watt's not back.
True. So
they don't play well. I mean, they're not playing well without him. They're 0-8 now without him, and he's their sole pass rush. I mean,
he really Hayward is not having a good year so far. And it's probably because TJ's not there. He just takes away so much of the pressure you have on you. That dude is a monster. We saw it week 1, and now we saw what his defenses look like since then. It's crazy. I don't want to say MVP, but it's crazy the impact he has on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
Carolina, you're talking about some turmoil in Pittsburgh. There's some turmoil in Carolina right now. At the Rams, 2-3, which they also don't look great either. But
no.
there's no way I'm going to be picking Carolina in this game. Rams are going to have a bounce back after a loss in week 5. Pretty bad loss, too, to the Dallas Cowboys. They looked embarrassing on live TV, national TV, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to have to go with the Rams with a bounce back, even though Stafford will have 2 turnovers this game.
Oh, I don't even think he has. I don't think he has a turnover this game. I think this is the perfect bounce back for Stafford and the Rams. It almost seems like this game could be a game where it gives the Rams and their fans false hope. That's how good this game will be for them. I don't see Carolina even coming close. I mean, your coach was fired mid-season, early season, and now you got Steve Wilkes coming in, trying to put his stamp on things. I mean, in 1 week, it's not gonna happen. I mean, they're gonna be a cluster. If they keep it close, I don't know what went wrong during the game, but I don't see that happening. So it'd be a miracle if they kept this close.
Is Baker that bad? PJ can't be that bad too.
Oh,
Darnold, Baker, they can't.
None
all
of
be
them
that
look
bad.
good.
They can't all be that bad. They have to put up at least 17 points this game, I would think. The Rams don't look that good to me on defense either. We talked about, I mean, Donald's the only weapon they have up front. No one else is getting pushed, and then Ramsey's on the back end by himself right now. So it's kind of tough right now.
It is tough for the Rams, but they're brutal.
Yeah, they are brutal. We'll probably get to that later.
If they do keep it close and they have an opportunity to win this game, that's a credit to Steve Wilkes coming in right away and switching shit up because, and maybe these guys play harder and go out there and ball out because they hated Matt Rule that much. Who knows? But, I got the Rams easy. I mean, I see the Panthers scoring maybe 10 points.
Fair enough. Steve Wilkes came from Arizona. He didn't do anything out there with Josh Rosen, but hopefully he can do something with P.J. Washington.
Yep.
But speaking of Arizona, they are 2-3 on the road at Seattle at 2-3. You already know where I'm going. I need a jersey.
Well, you got Seattle. I got Arizona, man.
D-Hop is back after this game, right?
Yeah, 2 more weeks, I think. If I recall, it's his first game back is against us, which would be week 8. But I could be wrong. It could be a game earlier than that. So
they have a bye next week.
But what I'm saying is why I'm picking Arizona is that they're not a bad team. Like they still got playmakers over there. Kyler is still a quarterback who's hard to stop. It's a division game. Seattle always does play well for the most part against their division opponents, but after Arizona's been slowly chugging along and they're not where they want to be. They've started slow. It's in Seattle, right?
Yeah.
It's a tough place to play, obviously with 12th man, but I just give me Arizona, man. I think they gotta get a win or two before D-Hop comes back before they can go on a run. If that's how that's how this season's gonna go for them.
That's how you said it would be. They would start slow, finish fast, as opposed to starting fast.
I don't like saying that I think they're gonna be a playoff team or anything like that, but they're a team who could eventually, ruin seasons or be a dark horse to sneak into the playoffs, I think. But it's got to come together. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury, I haven't ever been sold on him,
right?
So it's just you gotta call a good game, have a good scheme this week, and yeah, you gotta go in there and try to make Geno look bad, which is hard to do for most teams right now.
I mean, you got J.J. Watt, Simmons, Buda Baker. You have some weapons on the defensive side, but I don't like this Arizona defense at all. Seattle, they've been tearing through these teams right now on offense.
Fair enough.
Same thing on the other side, though. If Kyler doesn't put up 35 points against the Seattle defense, I'm going to be very disappointed in him.
I would expect this to be a back and forth, high scoring game.
It should be.
It should be that Saints-Seattle game like it was last week.
No question about it. I'm going to have to go Seattle, like I said, though. I don't think AZ is going to be too much of a threat till they get D-Hop back in week 8.
Okay.
and it's going to look nasty from there on out.
And that's fair. I mean, the way Gino's been playing and making that offense roll, it's hard to argue against that pick. I think, these division games, it usually, unless you're very bad, it's usually a toss up. It's whoever comes to play that day and schemes better. I think has a better game plan. I just, as much as I'm not a big Kyler fan, he is very hard to stop. The way he can prolong plays and scramble, and the receivers usually end up breaking off the routes just to get open, and it's usually, it always surprises me because when those plays happen with Kyler, you would think there'd be at least one flag for holding with how long those plays go, but it's not too often you see it really.
That's a good point. I've never noticed that, but I don't really see him with Kyler.
So I mean, you give these the linemen, you give them, you got a handful of seconds before you get a holding call. Mm-hmm. So I think for Pete Carroll in Seattle, if their defense shows up and they can pressure him and get to him, it might be a rough day for Arizona. But if that doesn't happen, it should be, a high-scoring affair, and I think whoever gets the ball last will probably pull it off.
Yeah, that pass rush is taking a big hit since they lost Chandler Jones to the Raiders. But Seattle also lost a big weapon in Rashad Penny for the season. Yeah. So I think they'll be able to contain this offense to an extent, but like we said, it's going to be a high-scoring game both ways. And I said this week is going to start with a great game on Thursday, and it only gets better. Mm-hmm. Here's where it starts getting better. Buffalo, 4-1 on the road in Arrowhead. Kansas City Chiefs, 4-1. Clear your schedule. Arizona, Seattle, I might not even be watching that game because
this is the game of the week.
I have my eyes on this one right here. I don't know, man. This is a tough game to pick.
It's very tough. I go back and forth with this one. Because I'm not going to be surprised at whoever wins this one. I mean,
I'll be surprised if it's a blowout. That's the only
thing. But,
I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I'm going to go my MVP against your MVP.
See, and I got to agree here. I just think there's something about the Chiefs that they hang in these games. Even with the leaky defense they got right now. They can put up so many points and go toe-to-toe with you. And that's the scary thing. Because if you give them the ball last, you're not looking good.
We've only seen it with a few guys.
And Buffalo, there's been a couple games this year where they haven't looked like the team that we thought they would be. They're kind of shaky in spots. When they play lesser teams, it's usually, like Pittsburgh, they have their way with them. But when you look back at the last two times they played the Chiefs, it's a heavyweight match. It's back and forth, high scoring. They just can't keep pace yet with the Chiefs. The Chiefs have their number, and I do trust Mahomes more than I do Allen right now. And and the thing is with the Chiefs, Kelsey's going to get the ball, but no one can stop him. He's always getting open and making the clutch catches. He's one of my favorite guys to watch in the league. And I think Juju looks good. MVS looks good. They got a lot of good complementary guys on that offense. And Edwards-Helaire, he does his job to the best of his ability. He's not elite by any means, but they got a good 1-2 punch back there with McKinnon and him. McKinnon is highly underrated.
Averaged 6.5 yards last game.
I would argue he should be the starting back for Kansas City.
You can argue that because it's not like they're pounding the
right. Yeah, and I think he's a little bit faster. He's more.
He's
shifty. Just the only thing that worries me is the defense. But the saving grace though is why I'm ultimately picking the Chiefs though is you look at the run defense last night against the Raiders. Kind of got gashed a little bit. They didn't have an answer for Jacobs. He broke off a few good long runs. Buffalo doesn't have a run game. Josh Allen is leading the way in rushing all the time. So they can pin their ears back.
Every time.
And they know.
Just stay in your lanes.
I think Andy Reid is a better coach than Sean McDermott. I think he will have a better game plan for them. And I just see the Chiefs winning at home. And this is a good early season test for both these teams because it's going to put you in that front runner spot for the playoffs and that number 1 seed.
I agree. I think Kansas City was looking ahead to this game a little bit when they played the Raiders and got down 17-0 before they woke up and showed us who they are and scored 30 points in the blink of an eye. So this is going to be one of those games of the year. And I think it probably will be the game of the year so far.
So far, I'm glad we play at 12 o'clock and not the same time as them because this is going to be a great afternoon, late afternoon game.
Hell yeah.
And I mean, you can't ask for a better game. We got the Eagles in the NFC, but when you got two, juggernauts in the AFC like this,
we know this is either 1, 2, or 3 in the AFC.
Yep.
Eagles, we know they're probably 1, but we don't know who 2 or 3 is, so they're not going to have that matchup right now in the NFC.
And
if they did, it was against you guys, and we already saw how that was.
Yeah, but you do got.
Cowboys, I guess.
But you got, and that's the other game this week.
Let's get into it. It's
so
Sunday night football.
you got, but I will say before we hop to that game, I mentioned the Bills not having a great run game. On the other hand, you have a 1-2 punch in Kansas City with Edwards-Helaire and McKinnon. They can grind that Buffalo defense down. Not with a bruising, 3-down back like Jonathan Taylor or Derrick Henry or anything like that, but if you're mixing it up and rotating them well enough, they'll both have enough stamina and energy throughout the game where they can grind that defense down. That's probably not going to happen because both these teams like to air it out. But Kansas City does have that aspect in their offense of being able to run the ball compared to Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo doesn't even try. And like we said, they incorporate the short pass into their run game. But that's not sustainable. You just got to hand it off sometimes. Kansas City is at least willing to keep you honest and run the ball, even up the middle with guys that are undersized. So I think that's going to open up a lot of things for this Kansas City offense, especially given that the Bills secondary is a little banged up and young. Sunday Night Football, we talked about it. Yep. Dallas 4-1 on the road at Philly, undefeated at 5-0 still. Are you going to finally believe, or are you still flying high with Philly?
I got Dallas.
You're finally believing.
I think, and even though Philly's at home,
tough place to play.
Very tough. There's that Dallas defense has shown me too much so far, where I think this is the first real test for Philly's offense, and I don't know if they're gonna be able to have the constant answers they do for all these defenses they've played so far. You got the best cornerback in the league in Diggs. Damn near the best pass rusher in Micah Parsons. Hurts, I feel like, is going to be escaping the pocket and trying to run a lot more. And that's going to be the downfall. Not being able to get it to his wide receivers, Devontae and AJ, the way he likes to. I think maybe Goddard has a bigger game than both of them due to that. I just don't. This is going to be a close game. It's going to be a slugfest, but I don't know if I can't say it's going to be a high scoring because you got Cooper Rush in that offense over there in Dallas. But I think this defense does enough to pull it out. It should be, a game decided by a field goal.
Man, oh man, I don't know why I want to say Dallas, but I think Cooper Rush, Noah Brown, CeeDee Lamb are not going to be able to match up well with Darius Slay, James Bradbury, and I think I'm going to have to go Philly slightly in this game. But if Dallas wins this one, man, I'm not going to be surprised at all. This defense is for real. You said it all. Trey Diggs, best DB in the league right now. Micah Parsons, best pass rusher, maybe the best defensive player in the league right now. Great formula. Pollard is a good running back. Zeke has his moments. Receivers make big catches. CD does drop some crucial passes from time to time. And I think, like I said last week, Philly just has a lot of ways to beat you. I think they're going to figure out a way to neutralize Micah Parsons to an extent. I don't know if DeMarcus Lawrence is going to play. It looked like he might have been in concussion protocol towards the end of that game. But this game, I think, is going to be split. Or the series, I think, is going to be split Philly. And
I would assume
I think
so.
next time they go to Dallas, I think if everything's like it is right now, plus Dak back, I'm going to have to go Dallas next game. But for this one, Philly stays undefeated.
And that's the thing about Dallas, though, is I don't think anyone ever fears going into Dallas. It's not the greatest home field advantage. So I think there's a possibility if Philly does pull this off that they could possibly sweep them, because I feel like in the end, overall, they have a better roster and they're a better team. It's just right now, it's
better coach.
It's when is that Dallas defense gonna give us a letdown? Because it's bound to happen. Because they're not gonna hold up and play 17 games the way they've been playing.
I don't think they've allowed more than 17 points yet. Maybe they have. But you can't expect that to happen every week. But at the same time, Philly only put up 20 last week against Arizona.
Well, I think Philly's averaging around 19 points per game.
Yeah, it's not very impressive.
No, it's not. They're doing just enough to win. I think their best game, obviously, was against the Vikings, where they looked unstoppable. But you look at that game, go back and look at that game, they didn't do anything in the second half.
Right. So
they are a team where they're very hit or miss on offense, even though they look good. So, and against a defense like Dallas, granted, LA is not for either the Chargers or the Rams is not a good home field advantage. There's no home field advantage there. It's a neutral site because of how many people are in LA are different fans of different teams. Yeah. And I feel like every time I watch a game out there, there's more fans of the opposing team than the home team,
especially Dallas.
So
they're gonna travel.
I think right now Dallas is able to travel well. Both these teams should be hyped for this game, and man, it's hard. Cooper Rush does such a good job of managing this offense, and I do like Philly's defense too, but I feel like this Dallas team is looking great so far early in the year. We said they'll do Dallas things eventually, but for right now, I've picked against them damn near every week. So I'm gonna
switch. Reverse jinxing it then.
Yeah, I'm switching it up. I
feel you. Okay, even at the expense of Philly being undefeated potentially, when you guys could get that 1 seed somehow.
Yeah, we need Philly to lose. But I also, shoot, Dallas. Does that propel Dallas to the 1 seed?
It would, but they don't have the sustainability, in my opinion. I think Philly could stay up there for the whole season. Dallas.
Yeah, well, especially when you look at their schedule.
Yeah,
not saying Dallas has got a fairly decent schedule as well.
Yeah.
So they're gonna be duking it out all year long for that top division spot. And I feel like you could argue whoever comes out on top of the division is going to be the number 1 seed. And I surely won't trust Dallas with the number 1 seed. I would fear playing at Philly in playoffs
in the winter. Yeah,
with that team. Crowd, that hostile crowd, if they get the 1 seed, man, it's going to be tough sledding for anyone to go in there and steal a game.
That's a fact. 2 great games. We'll finish it off with an even better one. Denver 2-3 at the Chargers 3-2.
Oh man.
And we have some topics we'll get into after we pick this game. Both teams, in my opinion, are in big trouble right here. If Denver ends up losing this game 2-4 with all the injuries, with all the questions surrounding the coach and the organization, you're probably going to spiral and be out of playoff contention. If you end up beating the Chargers, you're both 3-3 in the same division. Chargers are going to have a lot of questions because they also have a lot of injuries. If they lose this game, it's probably going to come down to some bad coaching decisions. And I think that's not ultimately going to be the case, but there is the seeds are planted for that to happen. And I'm going to go with the Chargers this game, 4-2.
Oh yeah, I can't feel comfortable picking Denver this week. I can't feel comfortable picking them going forward at all until they show me something other than what they've been showing us. So yeah, I like Herbert more than I do Russell Wilson at this part in Russell Wilson's career. I think they got more firepower over there on both sides of the ball in LA, and I just think this Denver team is too porous right now to even, you know, maybe this game's close, but the way they played Indianapolis last Thursday night, I won't be surprised if LA wins by at least 2 touchdowns. I mean, Denver's just, I mean, they're like Carolina, they're just a dumpster fire right now. And I don't think, even though I'm not high on Brandon Staley as a head coach, I'm even lower on Nathaniel Hackett. I don't trust him whatsoever. So for that, I got the Chargers.
I think everybody's low on Nathaniel Hackett, and we'll just get right into it. You have 2 coaches that are on the hot seat for this season so far.
2 coaches for the hot seat. Well, I wrote down a few of them, but the 2 top ones that come to mind, Ron Rivera and Frank Reich. I think
Riverboat Ron and Frank Reich, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting choices.
I mean, you look at Ron Rivera, he's given all the power in personnel decisions with that roster. He's been there for 3 or 4 years now, and nothing's been working. He's rotating quarterbacks like crazy, almost like Carolina. You're gonna need a franchise cornerstone guy through the draft, unless you're able to swing some sort of deal or get a top free agent. I don't know, but I would expect it to be through the draft. I mean, Washington overall, one of the worst organizations in the league. You got a terrible owner in Dan Snyder. The only problem is I don't think there's any coaches out there who might want to coach for a guy like that. So
good point.
That might be a saving grace for Ron Rivera. And you look back at his time in Carolina, and I think he's only had 2, maybe 3 seasons above 500. And those are the years he went to the Super Bowl, won with Cam. And I can't recall the other 2, but he was fairly average as a coach out there. Hasn't been showing a whole lot in Washington, and you're not set up for success with the roster you have right now. You got key guys like Chase Young, who's unfortunately hurt still. Terry McLaurin, who I feel terrible for. I like the young guy, rookie Brian Robinson. Mm-hmm. I think he's a good running back. I mean, you still got Antonio Gibson, who can be a stud at times, but ultimately, I think he's got to be on the hot seat, and his job is in jeopardy. Frank Reich, you're in that same quarterback carousel, and your teams never come up when you need them. And the way they're looking this year is, you brought in Matt Ryan, who's better than Wentz still, in my opinion.
Is he? Washington has been in the quarterback carousel now. I think about it. Heineke, Fitzpatrick, Alex Smith, now Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
That's a tough situation to win in, though, for Ron Rivera. That's not on him. I understand.
But my point was, he's got the power to make roster moves.
And he also is a defensive guy, and the defense is absolute dog shit right now.
Yeah. And I think he's number 1. Frank Reich, Indy's they just let everyone down since he's been there. He hasn't done.
You're right. It's been commendable, but they have not exceeded expectations.
No,
or even met them.
And in the NFL, you should have at least a full 3 years to prove what you can do with your team. I think he's on year 3 right now. I believe, right?
He was after Luck retired. Because they went and got
It
Rivers.
wait, hold up.
Wentz, and now Matt Ryan in consecutive years, and I think
Yep,
that
Rivers,
Jacoby the year after
Rivers,
Luck retired.
Wentz, and Matt Ryan have been his 3 quarterbacks.
Okay.
So
he didn't have Jacoby the year after Luck retired?
I don't think so. Because he was with they took him from Philly, I believe, after the 2019 season.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong here. I'd have to look that up. But he's been there, at least 3 years. I
fair
believe.
amount.
Yeah.
Right.
So you've been, and I'm saying he's on the hot seat and should be, because you got an owner in Indy who's Jim Irsay, who's very impatient. That shows just what the quarterbacks he brings in and tries to, ever since Luck retired, you've been changing quarterbacks every year. So I don't know, that they're in a little bit of turmoil over there as well, but and not to dive into other hot seats, but I would, off the top of my head, I think
we're excluding Hackett, right? Because he has to be.
It's his first year. I mean, you would think he'd be on a hot seat right now, but I don't see. I don't see it happening. It's his first year. They're gonna give him at least a couple years. Honestly, I would be shocked if, not saying he should be, because it's his first year as a head coach.
Josh?
No.
Eberflus?
No, it's I hate saying this name because he shouldn't be on the hot seat, but it's kind of inevitable because of the team he has. Lovie Smith.
I knew it. I was trying to say everybody but Lovey. I was going to say McConnell first.
I feel bad saying it, but he might be a one and done guy because he's getting older. He's not an offensive minded guy, and this is an offensive league. And even though it's 1 year and he hasn't been able to get the guys he wants on his team for his defense, it's going to be tough sledding out there. And I think they're ultimately going to have to keep rebuilding. And I don't know if they see him as a guy who has the longevity to get into this rebuild and see it through. So, I hate saying it because, I do like Lovie Smith. I think he's a good coach, but he had the one really good year in Chicago. But other than that, ever since he's been a head coach, I think what was the stat I saw? It was something. I'd have to look it back up, but he just, look at what he did even in college at Illinois. It wasn't that great.
It was awful.
Like I said before, though, college is a lot different than NFL. You got to recruit. You got to do all this stuff, and who knows how great he was at that. Didn't seem that great, but I feel bad for saying it, but I think Lovie Smith's got to be on that list. I would probably still pick Brandon Staley just because of the idiotic decisions he makes most games. And that roster is super talented, and you're not getting the most out of it. So that is a huge letdown.
That's one of my picks. I have Staley and Cliff Kingsbury.
That's who I got as well on my list too.
You got the whole league getting fired.
I got what I have 5 guys.
Okay.
5 guys.
Okay.
So I got Rivera, Reich, Kingsbury, Lovey, and Brandon Staley.
Okay.
I would love to have Nathaniel Hackett at the top of my list, but I just don't see, it's rare you hire a guy and then fire him the year after. It's that they're going to give him they're going to give him an opportunity to see things through for at least 2 seasons. I'll say that. But I don't see with where Russell Wilson's at in his career and the way he's been playing, you can't get much worse the year after this with him. It's got to improve somehow, you'd think. So I don't know what it's going to take, but yeah, it's just, this is a year though, I think I don't see, I probably see 2 or 3 guys getting fired at the end of the season. It's not going to be a whole lot, but I would definitely think Rivera and Reich as my top 2 guys.
Top of the list. That's understandable. Like I said, I got Staley and Cliff. Both guys been underwhelming, especially Staley. A lot of talent out there in LA, and you missed the playoffs last year. You're really not looking that great this year.
Well, I think Kingsbury's had been with Kyler for 4 years now,
Yeah,
and they haven't done anything.
right.
They're always starting hot, and they're fizzling out, and they're just scratching 500.
Yeah.
So that's a huge letdown. And I even when they hired him, I said that was a bad hire because a lot of these big time college coaches who move on to the NFL to try and prove themselves,
Not even 500.
it doesn't really ever work out because especially with Kingsbury, he brings this air raid offense, and it doesn't work in the NFL that well. There's times it works, but most of the time it doesn't. These defenses are too good to let get beat by it.
It's just you're the new Chip Kelly. That's all it is.
Exactly. I mean, look, and I think back to that, and that was just brutal for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Everybody thought that team was going to be the next talk of the town.
He had some games though. He built that team to fit that offense.
Yeah.
And there was games that looked lethal, but ultimately,
when it's figured out, it's figured out.
Exactly. I mean, that's why when you get to the NFL, even for these rookies, it's hard to learn and grasp these offenses because they do so many different things. And I mean, the play calls in the huddle are, I mean, it could be 2 words compared to a whole formation and route combo.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be a smart cat to be in the league as well as being an athletic, baller, because the average lifespan of an NFL player has got to be what, 3-4 years, if that. I mean, with injuries and everything else, I mean, there's constant guys coming to the league each year being rookies, and a lot of them take these guys' spots who have been in the league for 2 years because they're not living up to the expectations as draft picks. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I mean, it's there's a handful of coaches right now in the NFL who aren't cut out to be head coaches.
I agree. We are definitely going to see some change in this offseason. Maybe everybody on that list might be out of there.
Yeah, and for me, as fun as the regular season and playoffs are, the season as a whole, off season's even more fun.
I don't know if I say it's more fun because I just love watching football, but this off season especially was just crazy.
It's just fun. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say it's more fun because I do love football season, and we obviously live for the game. But it's like you get to the off season and there's so. I mean, I love keeping track of the rumors coming in and out of the analysts who are keeping track with whether it be Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport, and there's so many moving pieces. It seems like every single day once free agency hits, and it's fun to see where these guys try to want to go and play, and then you got coaching hires. I mean, it's a whirlwind. There's you got to be on your toes with it because every offseason, throughout the season, there's not much changing besides picking people off practice squads or maybe the occasional trade, but it's not going to be a huge trade most of the time. It's just going to be more so for a role player. Mm-hmm. It's you maybe get 1, possibly 2 coaching fires mid-season. We already have 1. But once you hit the off season, it's like it almost seems like these guys are waiting for the season to end for this to happen because they can't wait to get out of these situations. Mm-hmm. So that's what makes it fun because they almost NFL players they pretty much get to pick where they want to go play after the year, and it's fun to see where they choose to play because they believe that team has something that they could possibly get a ring with.
Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong.
A lot of times they're wrong.
A lot of times they're wrong, for sure. That's why they're the players and they're not the general managers. As we know, there are 18 weeks in the NFL season. There are now 14 teams that get into the playoffs out of the 32 teams in the NFL. What we want to do is start a little game that'll last to the end of the regular season. And in honor of October, given that it's spooky season, we're going to start digging some graves for some of these teams, man. So Every Tuesday from here on out, we're going to be picking a team to eliminate from playoff contention. For these first few weeks, we're going to have to eliminate 2 teams. And, I mean, you ready to go?
I'm ready.
You got 2 teams?
Well, I'm gonna go every other with you.
Okay.
So my first team is gotta be Houston Texans.
Okay.
I feel like they're just at the bottom of the barrel. I mean, there's not a whole lot they can do to get on the winning end of things this season. Davis Mills ain't the quarterback that's gonna lead you there, I don't believe. You got a great piece in Damian Pierce on offense, Derek Stingley on defense, but there's a lot of pieces that need to be added to make you into that playoff team you once were. What, 2-3 years ago with Bill O'Brien? So, I wouldn't say they're necessarily far off because they do got some good pieces there, but it just ain't this year.
Man, to touch on your Houston point, it's really tough to lose Deshaun, Jadeveon Clowney, J.J. Watt. Who else? DeAndre Hopkins, and you really don't have
Bill O'Brien blew it up over
anything to show for it. You literally have nothing to show for it except for Stingley and Damian Pierce.
He just gave him away. Why? That's my problem with.
He was one of those guys you were talking about who never should have had the position.
Exactly.
And then he had double the position and double the responsibility.
I think he's a very good college coach. He's cut out for college. But,
terrible.
But for the NFL, and then for him to come from college to the NFL as a head coach, and the general manager and owner give him the ability to be the general manager.
Unbelievable.
Terrible decision on the front office's part. He blew your team up, couldn't evaluate trades for shit, and you got nothing in return for those top end players that you drafted.
That's why they're here now and eliminated from the playoffs. You got Houston. My pick is obvious, and I thought you were going to take them. It's got to be Carolina.
I was gonna make them number 1, but I just felt like it was too obvious where I had to pick a different team. But
I hear you. It just has to be them. Quarterback is hurt. Coach is fired. DC is fired. They fired Brady last year, the offensive coordinator, after I don't know how many games, probably half the season then too. I mean, they just don't know what they want out there, and they're getting everything they could ask for, but nothing that they did want. And I think this team is well on their way to a 2-3 win season. I don't know. Are you going to shut McCaffrey down? Are you going to trade J.C. Horn? Are you going to trade Brian Burns because he's owed money pretty soon? It's sad because, I mean, they have talent. I think Icky had a great game last week. If I read correctly, if I'm remembering correctly, he had the highest grade of any rookie offensive lineman ever.
He was a great pick, and he's a cornerstone in that rebuild process. So if I'm the Panthers, I'm looking to move Christian McCaffrey, number 1, because you want to give him the opportunity to go out there and win games. Number 2, it almost seems to me that McCaffrey, due to all these injuries, has lost a step already. He doesn't seem to have that same burst he used to have in college or even his rookie year. He doesn't have the breakaway speed that a running back should. And he doesn't fit your team anymore. So I think you got to look at moving him and ship him off to a contender, because a contender will give you a high draft pick.
Yeah, don't do like Houston and get rid of him for a 5th round pick.
And you know what? If I'm Buffalo, I'm making a call, because that would be a huge trade for them.
That would be crazy.
And he would open up that offense even more, and you could do a lot of damage with him, and that would give you a run game.
You know what? If I'm the Chiefs, I'm making a call.
And then there are other guys like J.C. Horn, that
I think they keep J.C. 2nd-year player. He got hurt last year's rookie season, and this year, absolute shutdown corner.
But I would say that you got to look at trading at least 2 to 3 players to get some compensation to be able to rebuild. So
you'll probably be trading McCaffrey. You'll probably be trading Brian Burns because his contract situation is coming up. I don't know. One of those receivers probably gonna have to go with him.
I mean, shoot. Even though you're not gonna get much, look at trading Robbie Anderson. I mean,
I'd want to keep DJ.
I would want to keep him as well. But Robbie, I think you could get at least a 4th, 5th round pick for, and those usually can be huge hits in the draft.
That's half your team. Probably.
So those are a couple of guys I'd look at, especially Christian McCaffrey. You're not gonna go he's not gonna make or break your team. You're already broken, but you're not winning anything with him. So look at shipping him off to a contender, getting a high draft pick. I mean, even if you get a second round pick, you probably won't get a first because of being a running back and their shelf life. I would say the highest you could get is second round, but second round picks are usually huge in the NFL. So that's something I'd look to do. But yeah, this team is terrible, and yeah, that's a good pick it's an obvious pick for elimination.
Hey man, we'll keep that one light. 2 teams this week. We'll have 2 teams next week, and we'll know a little bit more after this weekend of football, week 6. You got anything else for the people?
No, man. Like always, like, subscribe, share the video. Give us your thoughts in the comments on this episode here. Comment your teams, one team that you'd think is eliminated that we haven't picked already. It's pretty. I think it's pretty easy. Right the first 2 times to get teams out of there, but even once you start hitting those,
second month of the season, third month of the season,
and you got teams who are second, third place in the division still battling. I mean, those are teams that are hard to pick out because they can make a little bit of a run and knock the top teams off. So, it's gonna get interesting very quickly here. A lot of teams are neck and neck, but yeah, I think you got games like 2 this weekend back to back with Buffalo at Kansas City and Dallas at Philly. We're starting to get into these games where we're seeing these top dogs face each other, and it makes separation even more noticeable. So, it's gonna be this week's gonna be fun. Those 2 games I'm looking forward to.
Yes, indeed. We got great games like that, and then we got one that isn't so great. And I think one of those teams might be up in this category next weekend.
Yeah, we'll definitely have a couple easy teams next week as
yes,
well.
Yes, sir. All right. Until next time.
All right, bro.